Hello, my name is Mary O'Donnell and I'm absolutely delighted to be taking part in this 40th anniversary celebration of one of the most nurturing places I can think of. Certainly a place that has sustained me in many ways over the years. My first trip to Annamecarrig was in 1984 when I was the fortunate recipient of a bursary from Monaghan County Council. And since then, I have been back maybe 6 or 7 times, and every time I'm there, I write. So I'm going to read two short extracts. I'm a fiction writer as well as a poet, and my practice has been ongoing and steady down the years. I've published, I think, maybe 17 books, half poetry, half fiction, as it happens to be. And I'm going to read a short extract from a story that I wrote while in Annamecarrig in 1984. So it's quite an old one, and it's called The Adulteress, which seems like a strangely anachronistic term nowadays. But it's about a young woman in the late 70s. The moment I saw Reiner, I was secretly delighted and immediately felt guilty that I, hardly a year wed, could be so excited by this tall German from Bayreuth. I was also quite amused by him, by his obvious vanity and contrived bohemianism, the carefully tousled blonde hair contrasting with the neatly trimmed beard and moustache, the silk cravat on his white throat and the endless cigarettes. Everything about him spoke of the artist in the stereotypical sense of the word, and for a long time I wasn't inclined to take him seriously, even though he was to be one of my teachers for the year. It all began in small ways. From the moment I left the house and cycled up through the estate, I was on my way to another world, a world which I, gifted, recognised and financially secure, would eventually occupy. My mind always raced ahead as I cycled down the narrow road towards the village, eyes running in the icy atmosphere, avoiding potholes and patches of ice as I mounted the canal bridge. Looking down the hill from the bridge, the village seemed to me shrouded in frost mists, distant, almost medieval, humped in upon itself, its lowness broken only by the church spire and the Gothic austerity of the college. From that standpoint, I could imagine a different place entirely, a crusty, cobbled, yellow-stoned village in a Bertolucci film, with swarthy peasants, rattling carts, squealing pigs, and the sonorous knelling from the church lending the atmosphere of another time. But that too was my perception of a medieval village. And I won't say what happened next to the adulteress, as I call her. Instead, I'm going to read a poem which I always think of Annamecarrig when I read this. It's called Unlegendary Heroes, and it was the title poem of my 1998 collection published by Salmon Poetry. I arrived in Annamecarrig, I think maybe the autumn of 96, I'm not sure. And I had an idea for a poem which would be a kind of inventory of the history of the labouring women from our past, maybe a generation or two back. And I wanted to reclaim these women as the heroines that they were and still are, of course. And I knew very clearly what I wanted to do, and also accompanying me was an atlas of South Ulster by the geography lecturer emeritus from Maynooth University, Dr. Patrick Duffy. So I had that, and it gave me a spread of all the outlying parishes of Clogher, South Clogher and South Ulster. So this is the poem, and it begins with the epigram, "Life passes through places," which is from Landscapes of South Ulster. And in it, in the atlas, Duffy lists some of the achievements taken from an Irish folklore survey in 1938 of the men. So, for example, Patrick Farrell of Lacca, who was able to mow 1 acre and 1 rood Irish in a day. Tom Gallagher, Cornamuckla, could walk 50 Irish miles in a day. Edward Monaghan Anna, who could stand on his head on a pint tumbler or on the rigging of a house. So I wanted to reclaim the women and bring them back in, because it seemed to me that it was a life of labour, unsung, very quiet, people just getting on with it and being actually heroically unheroic, because it wasn't always acknowledged. Kathleen McKenna Anagola, who was able to wash a week's sheets, shirts and swaddling, bake bread and clean the house all of a Monday. Birdie McMahon of Falkland walked to Monaghan for a sack of flour 2 days before her 8th child was born. Septa Duffy, Glennon, very good at sewing, embroidered a set of vestments in 5 days. Mary McCabe of Derrynashallog, who cared for her husband's mother in dotage, fed 10 children, the youngest still at the breast, during haymaking. Mary Conlon Tully Ree, who wrote poems at night. Assumpta Meehan Tony Garvey saw many visions and was committed to the asylum. Miss Harper Corley, female problems rarely ceased, pleasant in ill health. Patricia Curley Corlat, whose joints ached and swelled though she was young, who bore 3 children. Dora Houston Stranani died in childbirth, aged 14 years. Last words, "Mammy, oh Mammy." Rosie McCrudden Ahabog, noted for clean boots winter or summer, often beaten by her father. Maggie Traynor Dona got no breakfasts, fed by the nuns, batch loaf with jam, the best speller in the school. Phyllis McCrudden Knockafubble, who buried 2 husbands, reared 5 children and farmed her own land. Anne Moffat of Ena, who taught people to read and did not charge. And that was how I spent the first few days of perhaps my 3rd stint in the Tyrone Guthrie Centre, putting this poem together. And it remains to this day one of my favourite stories, and indeed I am doing an art project with the visual artist Geraldine O'Reilly, and we've called it Unlegendary Heroes, and Geraldine is responding to 10 of my poems, including this one. So wishing all at the Tyrone Guthrie Centre continued success, and many thanks for everything you've given me. Bye.